with the Lamrim Kappa Guru Yoga on page 7 of this small booklet. From the heart of the Saviour, 100 deities of Tushita, on the peak of a cloud resembling a clump of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dharma, omniscient Losangdropa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me, on a line-thrown lotus of moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for my mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Pleasing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, light-scented waters, and so forth, oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanate, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age and made your freedoms and wishes meaningful. By abandoning the 8 worldly concerns, Saviour, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deed. Perfect, pure, holy Gurus, from the billion clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dharmakaya, please let fall the rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigrated beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losangdropa's teachings to shine forever. Sajipoki Jushimeto Trami Rablingji Nidegam Sange Jindu Miteowa Yidro Kunamdak Jingwa Chopashu. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losangdropa. You had the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of the 2 stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the colour of milk, flows from the opening of a tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and their imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. We'll now say the mantra on page 13 3 times out loud. Ming Mei Se We Te Chen Chen Re Zi Dream Me Ken Pe Wan Po Jam Pa Ya Dupa Ma Le Shung Se Sam Wei Da Kan Che Ke Pe Sung Gen Song Ka Pa Lo San Drak Pa Shang La So Wa De Ming Mei Se We Te Chen Chen Re Zi Dream Me Ken Pe Wan Po Jam Pa Ya Dupa Ma Le Shung Se Sam Wei Da Kan Che Ke Pe Sung Gen Song Ka Pa Lo San Drak Pa Shang La So Wa De Ming Mei Se Wei Te Chen Chen Re Zi Dream Me Ken Pei Wan Po Jam Pa Ya Du Pu Ma Le Shung Se Song Wei Da Kan Che Ke Pe Sung Gen Song Ka Pa Lo Zan Dra Pa Shak La Su Wa Ye.
Sa Ji Bü Ju Shu Shin Me Zhao Zhang Ri Ra Ling Zhe Ye De Jian Ba San Ji Shin Du Mi Du Wa Ye Zhou Gun Nam Da Shin La Ju Ba Re Shu
Sangye
Che Dan So Ji Chong Nam La Chan Che Pa De Da Da Gi Che She Ye Ban De Da Gi Zhou Lan Pen She San Ji Zhu Ba Re Shu San Ji Che Dan So Ji Chong Nam La Chan Che Pa De Da Da Gi Che She Ye Ban De Da Gi Zhou Lan Pen She San Ji Zhu Ba Re Shu Sangi
Chodam
Chedam
sogi
Sagi
chodam la
Chonamla
jangchu
Changchu Bardu
badu
Dhamni
dagni kapsuchi
Kapsunchi Dagi
dagi
Chushi
jimsogi
Gibanda
pesonam ki drolam
Drolam
penshi
Penshi
sangye
Sangi
druparashu.
Druparashu Kangi Tuzi Nizoni Tawa Tamche Pambi Chere Tambi Chun Dunze Kwadam Kela Changze Lo Namo Laye Ketan Lo Dano Yengi Tripan Tata Mi Kenam Dan Drava Kunji Janam Chizam Tamche Ketu Dagi Chudin To Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Geshe.
Shokudele, Kendojila, Kude. Sonke Pichinjuris.
Okay, danke Drigido.
Yeah.
Nie no to sorsan konta. Kokamsan.
Yeah. Teringanzu Lamrim ku tsamdene machik login be. Teringanzu mi Gundengi mi kashijur timado shiramundu. Lamrim ku tsam. Hakoson, tsamdi.
Gossen. Yeah. So today we'll continue to look at the Lamrim text, and other than some Sangha in person, there aren't many other people who are present, physically present today.
Tinsadanganzu nanyingiman jen the Lamrim ring ma che. Ani Lamrim ring kita something you shine lala sul say the kanji ani shine korne chikshu de goras ra
We've come up to the section in the middle Lamrim on concentration. We're looking at the entity of concentration, what concentration itself is. And within this, we are looking at the practice of calm abiding, or the attainment of calm abiding.
terda jadan sajid pe kechembo reshas kansana semtin ba chik mikwa chikla ba ten ne ma tu na ani sem kamdro ya ta kam segro sem yang dro ya la soba ani namdo mabushu chile ya la soba ani sem trugniwa teni make badang
Going to get some tuk sena?
sem
Tuk?
sem
Nyamying drabo, yeme jogiades.
re progress lanaro ganda wo ani
There gosan.
on the true progress sem true so by na teni ta magi wale gora daro dodo ta amati ti ani sem true so one teni kibu me badle gores.
This is a topic of really quite some importance, because we know when we try to observe an object, hold an object in meditation, many distractions arise to the mind, leading to the mind wavering, moving, not being still and stable, but fluttering all over the show. And this then results in the mind not being at peace. That's all.
terda mandu dungar seya chedo lamram gongu yore 대한 다지 아니 람름 주디 아니 람름게 센탁사데 아니 태버 침비고 로종라야 아니 람름스 태버 침비고 로종당 그런 버들야 아니 람름스 디스송고스레스 더 태버 침비고 로종스 라운디 아니 심전 탐지 동할세야게 세지게 탑 질이야 태버 침비고 람세그도스 로 심전 탐지 동할세야게 탑 질이야 심전 탐 가서 아니 람름스 라고 연자 다 동할세야야 randa shenki dongar ki tsawa di ani sem chukba, sem mungba, ani sem yangba. O tela teni yungu yanza. Ani
Kena semki kola kena sik sum des sungsong te
Aha.
yankya sungruhang. Rangdang shen dugnel seli ki chedu deni sem
sem songo sem randa shenki dongar di sem le teni sel go res. Dan dindi dongar yongya diya dongar yongya gyo diya sem chukba, sem mongba, sem yingba, la soba le teni ani dongar di yungyo res.
also. We all of us need to train in all the topics that are presented in the Lamrim. The Lamrim, or in English, the graduated stages of training to attain enlightenment. This is a style of text that contains all the steps to train the mind in order to achieve enlightenment. Therefore, it's a text of the Mahayana in that it has as its goal the eradication, the complete eradication of suffering for all sentient beings. And how to do so is through cultivating the various mental paths that are presented within the Lamrim. So both the suffering that ourselves and other sentient beings experience, this arises primarily in dependence on faulty ways of thinking, minds such as ignorance, aggression, and so forth. And therefore, corresponding to in that, or because of the primary causes of our suffering arising in faulty ways of thinking, the way to eliminate suffering for oneself as well as for others depends on transforming our mind, depends on training our mind in the varying steps presented in the Lamrim. Lasso.
Tinza, the same Montruya, same ani mayin yagi tabdi sem pige sem sechik neyati. Ro sem sechik neyati tablam yakshu chik chagores. Ro.
In order to cultivate the varying paths presented in the Lamrim, or to express it differently, to radically transform our mind, an indispensable or an excellent a companion is that of single-pointed concentration, the mind that is single-pointedly concentrated.
That's same pigitsich nebalaya and same nesagi shion migbaji gogores.
When the mind, for the mind to be single-pointed, it requires an object.
You'll congratulate sem and tebaina choguyores, you'll congratulate and sem and pig ten devaina chogores. Hinayang azu kabopki and lo jonguyabata, number sanji chu chigiyaba, dinani tebachim chu lamrum lo jong chiondi, and sem tesagi yul dia mandravach, chitang yul samayimba. Yul yagajilaya and sem te gogores. That desagi yul sheondi and kunjosum tavo. Then demba shetavo, demba ni tavo, then reachilaya and sem mayan, sem te tuvaina and goba mambu shoch and tuchilaya drubdea. Tanda mambu shoch tuchilaya and drubetindi yunguyores.
Gonna do chick, then a kadi yonki yore?
Tanda mambuchik.
Yeah.
Ah.
Tanda mambo chick, do chick, yonki yores.
Tanda mambu shik slana diksari. Tanda mambu shik pena sem zechik neya, telateni sonum saya, telateni sherab konu peyala soba, tindiki tanda mambu chik ra. Ay. Kunjusum chikbula ya sem ten devaina, di yungu yores. Dembashila ya sem ten di yungu yores. Ra.
In general, the mind can observe any object. So, and any object is suitable for the mind to observe, for the mind to hold single-pointedly. However, for those who are training in the Buddha Dharma, who are training to cultivate the various mental paths that are in the graduated sequence that leads to enlightenment in the Lamrim, then there are specific objects which are presented, or objects of the mind which are presented for the mind to cultivate, to hold, to integrate. So these, amongst the many, could be includes the 3 jewels, includes the 4 noble truths, includes the 2 truths. So these are some of the many. And when these objects are engaged with by the mind, various consciousnesses themselves are involved, such as wisdom and concentration.
That migba chedandangan kazing himata mambu shusares. Because dinner manche koyor dara shusares. That dinji penata demba and the kunjusum sheshawa. And it demba ni she deva, demba shila soba tea, kan yoba tea, and it elaya sem migba chik nin, the gyurumbu devalaya. Miwa tigidi, and it tembi majeva shegores. Do you talk the same tembalaya nyagores? Things the thing is the gombicolia, kitchen chick the temperature gores. The thing on the share some the tembat, tembadam, tembatiro, tembadi kodoji, and chagandos.
Awesome. We've covered so much already in the Madeleine Lamrim text, and including within the section on concentration. So when the mind observes an object, as it said, in the context of our cultivation of the minds of the Lamrim, then there are many minds that need to be cultivated, such as the three jewels, 4 noble truths, 2 truths. And when these are cultivated, these become the objects that one will hold single-pointedly. To hold something single-pointedly means to hold without forgetting, without losing the object. The mind is always holding that object without losing it. So therefore, within calm abiding, the mental consciousness of mindfulness is of great importance. Mindfulness, or it can also be translated as recollection, where one is mindful, remains mindful of the object, or continues to recall or recollect the object, and thereby not forgetting it. Mindfulness is of great importance in the cultivation and practice of calm abiding. So therefore, today we will talk about mindfulness. That's all.
Derida ra pena kyaviyu konjosum tavu ra kyaviyu konjosum yang samta tang ra pena sanji konjo tabkil toji chemu demi tembo kadin chitavu ngone nganzolaya lamde namapo nganzolaya ngone twitagdo tene chik ani lemebi tsewa yonge ani nganzu tem bashi laya samdenge ani nganzu chik pi momba mari wala soba ani nyumu tenji doya ge chedo tab shinji malaba tendengi tembo koi samsongi ani tembe kusun tukuyon den tembe tone ani tembe kadin chendeba ro tuta ndi chigi yang samlo yobana ani kaddu yina ani sanji di susu semla ya majeba tembe yula ya degores ro sanji di susu tembe yula kaddu yoba tizu sanji di semla majena sem di sanji la ming da degoras sanji la den degoras da di kaddu deba tizu da ani shinin druyati 신념다 땡겐즈 드려야지 레라 차고레스 로 디콜야 샘텐두 세바는 콤버송 요반자 다른 야 근데 상문 콘 데야마도 지 셴바치 레가 셴바치다 율 셴바치 페 아니 로르 셰라 마샤와친 아니 데투고레스
As mentioned previously, any object is suitable to be held by the mind, and within the cultivation of the paths of the Lamrim, there are specific minds that one is encouraged to cultivate, one of which are the objects of refuge, the three jewels. So when one is engaging in the cultivation of concentration on a topic, this is often preceded by some form of analysis or thought. So for example, when cultivating the image of Buddha Shakyamuni in the context of refuge, one will think about the tremendous kindness of Buddha Shakyamuni, our founder teacher who, through his great endeavors, has brought such goodness into the world and fortune to our lives. In this way, one generates a deep and moving faith in the Buddha. When this arises, one then holds the image of the Buddha that one has in an unafflicted manner, in other words, absence of afflictions, holding the Buddha image single-pointedly through having recalled his kindness and without forgetting. So this is where we're holding the image of the Buddha without forgetfulness. And to the extent that we do this and we become ever more familiar with the Buddha, faith or trust in the Buddha arises. And where this is of great assistance to us is this also serves to aid the cultivation of concentration, enabling us to more easily enabling us more easily to overcome being distracted to our many other activities that often so dominate our mind. So in other words, the more familiar we become with the Buddha as an object of meditation, this aids our concentration in that because of our arisal of faith, of trust in the Buddha, then we are more easily able to overcome minds of distraction. So.
Terda odus dini benata sanji kunjo tawala ya sem teni deondi ani da nganzu kombe wangi sem shendu yangwa tindi yungurwas ti yung bi kabdula ya ani susu sem di kawla drogu yome pigi tajik dagbu jawngi da masuna ani shijin singi jigi yungores ra ngone susu tempa ten gwasa tel ten degi do mundu ani 근데 간주 samtang chogro wasarwa o dindigi samtangi ani shijin singi jores tedan tembani 이게 아니 샘 디바다 미발바 아니 자르바 담비 소르치네 아니 쫑 로고레스 다야 샘디 미발바 테니 데디 갑둘라 야 아니 비기 다 시진 따고게 아니 샘드 따다 데기 유메유 아니 따고고레스나 디따고고 말레스 데테바이나 샘지지도 네엘이야 교용고레스 ona manibi kabdula shijin gitechine kedi sem ditagda degimena tsuti yone tanjimi wadigan ba shago gres o dus da komdi tenro dus komdi ten drobaina ani shine sengi sem di drwe yore sungora ro.
When meditating, when trying to hold an object single-pointedly, as we know from our own experience, distraction does arise. So therefore, in addition to mindfulness, we require its companion of introspection. These two are indispensable in meditation. So when we're trying to hold the object, how do we know if we are still holding it, if we are still mindful of the object, if we are still recalling the object? This depends on the presence of introspection. Introspection is what ensures that we are aware that we have not forgotten the object, or that forgetfulness is not arising. If we do not rely on introspection, if introspection is not accompanying our mindfulness, when we lose our mindfulness, we will not even notice. We may think afterwards we've meditated well, but have not. So therefore, introspection is an indispensable companion to mindfulness. That's all.
That's what I'm saying. I'm 쇼셰드는 리진사 니번에 하르시아바타르 템바당 시진세야 돼 단지들이다. 경루 레버를 체베 템바
Gondagen, alle nipele, konde, sungrukan.
야 하르시아바타르 템바당 시진기 경루 레버를 체베 템바 톱딘기에 진고 참무의 시진기 리뉴베스 아니 진고 중앙 무슨 게 매장 대니 조만타는 고비 쪼와 메덴바 다음도 렘비 무조 뒤무체바는 땡긴지 견침부 임베 디님분 뒤절랑 쪼시다비 샘 고모스
Gen Gonda. Ja, so da chikpa taki ina mina nge hakmaso. Nga dead taki ya. Jingogi gowa yotsam gi michogi. Gompe tena jingo jungma jung jishin du shepe sheshin kietupa shigoso. Karen these sigiyabe.
디마리
Ale deni karen kane utsugiyabe kina Gonda.
안 디올 마리스
Okay.
로션 지금 당연히 디모 로션 지금
Okay.
이들은 다른 로고
Okay.
지금 거요 좀 저기 곰비스 저런 디니 마한 드로바이너로 드로바이너 니바니 세진데
Nipani. Nipa sheshin mashin na gomchi jingogi wangdu tsorwani di tseche dinedebe. Dantawu sheshin chigma kia bardu dini di barla dine yena. Because de yang nipa chik, yamana nipa loka, de hola nga so sumpa ya.
디마 단지 저랑 로야 디니 참 마한드로니 아니
Osmanpo madrokares.
아우즈만도 쇼고 ngoso 찍도 만드로이나
Dene nipane kutsugire, because then nga shipa tikche shipa tongiore in tikche sache konde sache shipa sache ngapa. Ale dene di nipa jingo ngozin kyang de na danta sache logia. Nipa jingo ngozin kyang de pongchir mitul war niempo tempa la ni. Niempo duche sempa ten gopa dang tundu kari tensu so dampo ni di sachi chik di marebe.
마니마 닐로사고 진냐 니번
Okay.
저랑 로데들 친구지 고여 좀좀 저기 컴퓨터나 친구 정마주 지진도 12 시진께 도바시 고소 대한 시진 또든 림기비 친구 종이 대마타도 딩으스비 시진께 도바 따주면 무슨 마기바 기비 트러블 제바나 리비 시진께 고디 공름 치만일이 샘 징음 진도 도번 통나 시당 샘 고본 고도 도번 통 시순 비체로 대답이 시진식 마기 받던 되는 디 발라 진고 매비 곰 겸이 종시 타제장 땐도 문도데 진고 중앙에 보면 비체데 시진 또된 마기 비체로 대양
Can I karine signange kokimendo. Dene
로스와
dene nipa shempadak song chiktene di dang keran chikpa nipa dilani semla ngusung shing jingo gokbe tsu gangla dene jingo kiewe gyu ngusung wao dampola ni le
인도젤라 단지 그냥 날 수지 로인바 담보
yini di kapa yina minenge hakma chungkena.
친구지 고여 좀좀 무척이 친구 좀 먼저 지진도 12 시진기 투버시 고소세 캐나직 송인바
Di lok sapienpe.
한 딜로사이
Alle denne die Zigtrup dampo yanke sungurkang denne selgien.
이번에 친구지 고여 좀좀 무척이 곰비스나 친구 좀 먼저 지진도 12 시진기 투버시 고소세
Nipa jingo ngusung kyang te di genla. Nipa jingo ngusung kyang te pong chir mitsulwe niempo tempa la ni. Di sigiepa. Kapa ina nipa tana ni logien. Di mare ha. Chik inji getokla lapyang, yamene konso gotom gere. Also karijene lapyamade. So sorry, just to say there's a little bit of confusion here. Geshe and I are in different parts of the text, so I'm struggling to find where he is. So please just bear with us for a moment or two. Oye, kontegenla.
개문도야. 아니 어디 간지 간주 셈믹발라 참 단단 아니 뜻샤자 거라. 산이는 제라 아나 아니 단다 대 로가래도 아니 걔는 인지다 배인이가 따고 그러와.
네.
걔는 축으로도.
네.
아, 아니 너무 거치스.
네, 됐어. So Geshe will just explain the meaning. So you have the English text in front of you. So try and work out from my explanation where I am in the book. That's all.
들 간지 the same migbala pigita 아니 콘조숨 따오나 산지 콘조 따발야 migbala ten devi kaptula 아니 코 kapkal야 아니 유rum부 대투야게 kap치다 양 kapkal라 대 마투게 kap치기 kap니 용구여레스
Kapni 요림포 야메나
유rum부 대투야게 뒤치다 양 대통행지다 양 대마통행 찍니 용구여레스.
Okay. So when observing a Buddha image, the image of Buddha Shakyamuni, for example, then they are either one can remain on the object for some time or not.
다 대투구여바나 가주 대투투라 아니 윤짠 아니 대구여레스.
What one wants is to be able to remain for as long as one can. This is what we look for, to hold the object for as long as one can.
다 되니 나도 용태면서 아니 율샹라 샘 땡땡 단 드로용 거레스. 디캅툴라 샘도 율샹라 드로고 여바디 문진 치투고 거레스.
But what will certainly happen is the mind will be drawn to other objects, distracted to other objects. This is important that it is recognized that when this happens.
다 드로고 여바 하코니 양 가드로나야 샘도 땅샤바이나 디기여 말레스. 아니 콤지 테토고 말와스. 드로고 여바 하코아들 남서 테마타도 드로아드 참제니 단지 비기 미버데사기 산지기 딱고다발야 수 아니 샘디 양자 리버드림니 샘티간라 샤고 거레스.
An important point is that when the mind is drawn away from the object, wherever it goes, to whatever other object it is, that is not suitable. The purpose here is to remain on in this illustration, the image of Buddha Shakyamuni. So wherever the object may be drawn to, the mind may be drawn to, immediately this needs to be recognized, and the mind needs to be brought back to the object that we are cultivating, in this case, the image of Buddha Shakyamuni.
Terda 다 샘 셴둔 로야디 민델야 수 고바세도스 고바생이 샘디 아니 다 땡인징기 끼운 고바생이 디수 착삼라야 자요레스 착삼라 로.
When the mind is distracted, this or rather not distracted, when the mind is drawn to objects other than what it is trying to hold, this is a mind of excitement. And excitement is a mind within the class of attachment.
다 착삼디 슉체기 여바나 다 착삼 슉 치온디 착삼 칼라 착삼 착바께사기 율텔파 아니 샘 로야지 용거와스 로. 다 디 카둘라 야양 다 샘디 야양 쇼드고 여바나 양양 쇼도 요바나 다 가서 다 센터스라라 센터 답에 우주견 베라 아니 작보로 주토네 아니 까야라 가르치고 그래스 라온디 아니 작보께서 율이야 아니 예믹다고 그래스 작보께서 율이야다 아니 로 작보기 무비 작보께서 율 지금 maybe 다 균세 망부 som다요라다 딘지 라 딘지 som다오나 아니 유텔 maybe 작바티 슈크총도 그래스
In proportion to the strength of the mind of attachment, our awareness holding the Buddha image will be propelled towards this other object that we are attached to. So the stronger the attachment, the more forceful we'll move to away from the Buddha image that we're trying to hold. So how then to counteract this attachment? Here we need to look at the faults of the object that we are being drawn to. That's all.
데리다베나 담마체디 되연라 차고라스 라 되연라 수트르 렉샬레야 차니 아니 샘 티원슨 로건자 단 되연라야 아니 니믹다야티 라단 되연디 다 이데메발로 소바 라 어딘지
Kade la sopa?
딱바 템보메바 이데메바 콜파 샘 이때네 로 콜 저잠니 대원한신기 유톤이 되기르스나 되기마린 규르고로 어딘지라 소베게 아니 삼탄고 요서레스
Gosa. The object to which we are drawn, the object that we are distracted towards, this is usually something of the sense pleasures, something that is either beautiful or pleasant, of the sense pleasures that we are drawn to. So we need to then recognize that this object that we see as pleasant, as pleasing, we need to recognize the faults of that.
pena suk zebatawalaya ni danganzu chabaki goras ra suk zeba chabaki sa suk zebatelaya ya chitebayana ani ta chabaki weyage shizachi zawninita ta yomares
Gundagana. Self-programmation.
suk zeba
Sukzeba de dekosan.
Sukzeba ya chabaki gro.
De dekosan.
Sukzeba ya chabaki kadula. One sukzeba ya chabaki we the chabaki sag you sukzeba koran le takji abu chebana. Ani chabaki sag yuljik chagmares.
When our attachment arises for an object, or be an object that we see as pleasing or as beautiful as desirable. So if we ask ourselves, is that object actually suitable as an object of desire? And using our intelligence, we'll recognize that it is not. That's all.
Jeda bena nganzu lu zebalia. Lu zebalia chabaki gorasra. The lu zebalia chabaki sag lu de pachi. Ani yabuji lu telepachi devayana shatak rusum ni trubde yurochi. Ra the shatak rusum gipita ani zawani chin pena ani shatak rusum so called in the chondu to dinji tonpa chik devayana. One any danji chabaki van anshin kiwabachi. Never did the Siburas, right?
So, for example, if your mind is drawn to a beautiful, handsome body, then use your intelligence and think, if I strip away the skin, is it so beautiful? If the shape isn't quite what it is it so beautiful? And this way, very quickly, through using one's intelligence, one realizes that this is not something suitable for desire. That's all.
Dindri Benata Daniel Balaya Chaya Daniel Balaya Chawandi Moniji Nazu Chava give Kadula Dad Piggy Daniel book you think Koranichi and the Daniel Buchi Yobadawich and Sorgorazra. Tadus and it Shimju Chivana Nazu Sawanita and the Meva Kanji and the Sosu Chava Nanshingi Piggy Yulji Mevadi and in Winsombaina. General, the Chaba Nansing, you Koran Mevadi, the Chabi General Chagora, or Dindig some of Damana, and Chabadi, Ra, and Dogures. The Chaba the Dovana, Sam Koran Pitanji, Sam Amadi, and Mibai you and Sanjilaya, and Sam Teadi Lelhardo was raised.
Of course, it's not just beautiful bodies that one's mind is drawn towards, but also, for example, pleasing sounds. This also draws us away from what we're trying to cultivate. So here, again, we must look with intelligence and recognize the faults of what we are drawn to. And in this way, our attachment will weaken, and we will be able to return to the Buddha image. Especially when we by seeing the faults of what we are attached to in relation to the benefits of holding the Buddha image, then it would be much easier to turn away from our objects of desire back to the Buddha image.
Terda yang ani semi wala devi kabdula ani chiwa sech kanji ani chiwa sla on the sem ge semla ya tanji Toma Miguel Deondi, Miguel Sivu Shuji Chadeati, Massive Chadrea. And it be Kasota Sem give Malabainaya
Malapa.
Sem gi Tembi Majebainaya, Sivu Mevach, Sivu Mevach Chagoras, the Dikalia, and it Chiwan Segur, Chiwan Legores. That di doya chedo, and Yanga, Tomang on the Sanji Kukondi, and the Sanji Kugita, and Yondela Soba, and it's Chinella Soba, that Dindi sometime, any and Ben Sensam Sunja, the patient judge said, Dindimam, that Dindi sometime at Sanji Ku Yondendi, and sometime, and Mibati said Dores, and Di Chiwan Dogores. That Chiwan dog, and Gobo dotus, and the kanji, and yang the Samdi, Miguelia to Chigni, and Condi Tantalia, that Shine Goms, right? Shine Goms and the Dindigit was right.
Awesome. When cultivating single point of concentration on an object, one of the problems is the excitement that draws us away from the object, and this excitement is a mind of the class of attachment. But another fault, another obstacle to cultivating concentration, in addition to excitement, is that of laxity. So laxity is when one is holding the object. So mindfulness could appear to be performing its function. The object is being recalled, it is being held. However, the object is not being held clearly. It's quite slack, lacks clarity, and it is the mind is a little weak in how it is holding the object. So this we need to recognize, and then in order to counteract our laxity, we in the context of holding the image of a Buddha, we use analysis by recalling the qualities of the Buddha, and through recalling the qualities of the Buddha, our mind will lift up, will rise, and then we can hold the object again, and this time without laxity. So this process of cultivating concentration is a process of always being on guard for excitement drawing us away from the object, or the object being held in a lax manner, and constantly drawing the mind away from excitement or laxity, turning away from excitement and laxity. So the word meditation can equally be translated as habituation or familiarization. So to use those synonyms now, but all the same word, we are when developing meditation or single point of concentration, we are developing a habit of repeatedly abandoning excitement, repeatedly turning away from excitement, repeatedly turning away from laxity. So our habit that we are building is to turn away from laxity, turn away from excitement. And in this way, we become habituated to the object we are trying to cultivate in meditation, in this case, the Buddha image. This is the process of meditation. That's all.
신니 드비알이야 아니 술좀 간다서 고고요미 미시 있으러 가서나
미시
하고마송스 고고요미 하고마송스 미시 있으러
알레
이나야 가서는 디라 단단간주 신니 곰발이야 kunjosumla jaksun jogo eskiyo mari pena sodari dingu pena gening dombala soba jamju dombala soba lengua yase kiyo marwas
chikan gomaso
Pekyo
미시파 양 쳔포요
저단 신니드리알이야 아니 수좀 고고요 사마레스 다도도 텔다 미스나 간스나 치러버요라 치러비기 신니드딩이 아니 something 운실로 소원 드딩이 넘버 많이 받다 치러버스는 넘버 많이 봐 딘디용고레스 두두기 신니기 미바디 덴바 실라 자고요 마레 덴바 니라 자고요 마레 kunjosumla shagyo mares shagyo mares ta nganzu shine druyadi pigi lamrim gi shitsati labasum tisha labasum gnangi tengin zingi laba sayadi su sutrum gi labaliya tende yores tinza ani nganzu shine druyu kawdulaya Tsultrim di pe masiwa keshimbu chagores Tsultrim yakbu jiyabayna 단지 쉬다는 이제 땡인증기더니 아니 객 땡인증기 객선하고라 땡인증기 객 친구인이 난그 고바 세야 쪼디 고바 까야 쪼디 탑디 술점을 해도았어
그렇소 그렇소 There are those who, when cultivating concentration, do not see much importance in ethical restraint. So some non-Buddhists who cultivate a single point of concentration don't see the relationship between ethical restraint and concentration. For us, though, as Buddhists, the very purpose of developing single-pointed concentration is so that we can engage in meditation on topics such as refuge, Four Noble Truths, Two Truths, and so forth with single-pointed concentration. This is our purpose. It is not the purpose for non-Buddhists developing single-pointed concentration. So as we have those topics as our later goal, once we have developed single-point concentration, we have as our later goal to apply our single-pointed concentration to those topics later on. For us, the foundation of ethics is indispensable. So if you think in the context of the three trainings, ethical restraint, concentration, and wisdom, you hear in that presentation of the three, ethical restraint, concentration, and wisdom, that concentration follows ethical restraint. And it's presented in this sequence for specific reasons. In our context here, we need to be clear that concentration or single-pointed concentration arises in dependence on ethical restraint. This is a key point. And why is it that concentration arises independent on ethical restraint? This is because the person who is trying to cultivate single-pointed concentration, to the extent that their ethical restraint is stable, their ethical restraint is the method by which they will be able to overcome the two primary obstacles to the development of concentration, namely excitement and laxity. So therefore, ethical restraint is an indispensable foundation for concentration, because it's ethical restraint which will restrain the mind, keep it on the object of meditation, and help her to overcome the obstacle. It will help, ethical restraint will help keep the mind on the object of meditation by overcoming the obstacles to developing single-pointed concentration. So therefore, ethics as a foundation is indispensable. Russell.
These the kanji shini gomngin jiki shini gomngin di miyu karesna rangi gyulaya shini drubyak chedras. The rangi gyulaya shini drubyalaya pi gom gaya chikpo mahimba. Ani shini ani gyun tsoksa gyun tsok. Tsoksaya. Gyun tsoksaya.
Awesome.
Gyun tsoksaya so di Tsultrim songyati. Ani rangi Tsultrim pigege pena genyin tawo jingba na. Ani suzu gyulaya genyin domba jigoras. Domba di ani pigi mundu chok kuen du dam mundu. Ani samlatan kezi kuy yobay na di pigege. Ani ten kusong tuk dunla soba. Ani gewishini yana di trila soba. Tindigi tone. Ani shagdam che. Nima nyeba saja di pa shagba che. Ani chinje nyeba tsawani shorchu me sambige. Ani dom.
Dante Yankee Kosom. Genin dompe jöken. Deni de koli Yankee Suna Yankee de Kondagen.
Genin domba yonking mijin bana. Ani suzuki domba tele kyun shor du mundu samdang. Kezi kyun shor yobana shagba chi godos. Shagba chi. Shagba chi tsavejil pena kusong tuk dun tawlandro. Ani chaksum che pigi shagdam che dan ji yorwas. Tiki shagba chi. Da chinche tsawani ni kyun shor chugume sambigi semlaya tamja sha. Ani penata ani kamdro sayla soba. Ani menda piyala soba dusche. Yang tsu de ani tengin su gom. Ani yang kaukala ya sem mikwa tsijila ya miya gom ti shani pena ninjila soba. Ani chanju semla soba gom. Yang adi shini gom. O dusin roba na jaji jadam drugiyo sa res. Nanzi che tuguyo marmada di dusin drugiyo sa res.
When one cultivates calm, just a sec, sorry. When one's cultivating calm abiding, the object that one is cultivating is our mind, and it's being cultivated. The object is being cultivated or being held by our mind as well, by another mind as well. So therefore, ethical restraint, which is a mind too, is a indispensable, it's a close connection, relationship to the mind and the object. These are all mental. So what will greatly assist or enable our cultivation or attainment of calm abiding is the accumulation of virtue. And virtue, the accumulation of virtue itself is also greatly assisted by ethical restraint. So take someone who has vows in the continuum, such as the 5 lay vows. They will hopefully regularly check that whether their lay vows are being held purely or not, and they may well recognize some transgressions. They will then perhaps confess to the 3 chuls, generating regret and engaging in the four opponent powers. And included in that, the promise, I will refrain from such non-virtues again. This is a promise I make. So in this way, they strengthen their ethical restraint. And then they may engage in any of a variety of the antidotal powers amongst the four opponent powers. And this could be making offerings, but it can, and often very skillful, to engage in meditation, such as on compassion, such as on wisdom, realizing emptiness, or on cultivating concentration. So all of this here, which is contained in the practice of ethical restraint, leads to the accumulation of merit. And merit, as well as ethical restraint, are indispensable companions to the cultivation of calm abiding. That's all.
아니 소자발로 소바 로임라 소바 마진라 소바 디기다 류 예바 쪼지로스 아니 주인다 참마 직접 마데야디 나기 예바 쪼지라 도중 예버도 dom고 가서레스 라디 dom마두나 아니 베나 치르바기 아니 드데야기 신이 바이나야 룽아기 예주도 dom마두나 신에도 싸우는 루기여서 말이스
To cultivate concentration, it's imperative that one refrains from non-virtues with body and speech. Those non-virtues of the body include those of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Those of speech include harsh speech, lying, divisive speech, and idle speech. For non-Buddhists too, it's imperative that they refrain from non-virtues of body and speech. That's all.
되는 창통나다 백갈카고 차고서레스 제네드야라 간주 샘 디치다니 간주 디신고도 하서라 창동모 조사야데 메망부슈지기 창동모 조사는 대든 예바스케 문도 상상도 데제 동나 카리어리 기분도 상상도 tindiyor 디산기 되비나로야 지다 믹세 망부슈지 라 네발야 gonda 칼라사 조야라 소바다 직맹기 체도 가리나 사죠 소바 딘지 망부 여데이나야 아니 고바 첨부 여바나 짝준 데스 준데데 시쳐야라 소바 아니 딘지 여데이나야 창 통야라야 믹스 자오이니 메스 믹스 자오이니 메스 베나 자강지기 젤야 로 차와당 차와체서는 자강지기 고들라 아니 추마무 되게 말하다 진주지 되게로 딘디지기 동야기 믹스니 믹스 메스 송여라지
Gosan. It's also important to mention the role of alcohol here, because many people enjoy alcohol, and they enjoy alcohol because it relaxes them and calms the mind, or it relaxes them, and they have a good, pleasant feeling when they drink a little. And because of that, they will argue there is no fault in having a drink or two. But in terms of our spiritual development, the Buddha made it very clear, alcohol should not be drunk. So he mentioned in the many list of, in his many restrictions that he gave practitioners, one that he emphasized is that of alcohol, saying that one shouldn't even drink the amount that can fit on the at the tip of a blade of grass. So from this illustration, it's very clear one needs to refrain from alcohol. That's all.
제다디 균생 가르레스 라운디 딘디 당부체고야 균생 가르레스 라운디 샘투가 규차가도스 샘투그레
Gosan.
샘투나 다 사만투그로 거라다 라가주 뉴무투스음디 타치도 빵거야디 샘투주간자 디렌도스라 딘자 아니 간주 토모메바니 컴댕기 차당 몬솜 샘투야기 규 Pedi nanzola ani mang chaya mado nyong chaya jik zawni yo marwas. Ise di gana tonda sem chuya gi gyujin nembi gyana ta zawni ni digme wanza. Ani changla ya nangwa me sidedi. Tendi da dindijiri ra.
The reason that one needs to refrain from alcohol is because the stability of the mind is lost. The mind will scatter all over the show, and one will struggle to retain control over the mind. So therefore, one should refrain from any amount of alcohol because of the impact that it has on the mind. That's all.
Odire da dindigi ra lunga ki nyejodom. Ani Tsultrim song. Teni da menda piyala soba dang, jamdru sayala soba, ani Lamrim enjo gomela soba di, ani tu ani gyundengi che, ani da pigi tunshi surachi, ra shogunga u yalan che, ani tadu tsama tsarni, ani dengala vil uch teni, ani shinigom, yang, ani pardon sha, du sin drova na, ani dende shinin drutugu yores, mado, ani dinji kain sosa majiba na, ani shinin druya di kabu chagores.
To cultivate concentration, then, there are several steps which are indispensable, otherwise it will not come about. One has to engage in ethical restraint, but in particular, which is no one can argue that one can achieve concentration without this, and that is refrain from unethical behavior, physical behavior, and unethical speech. This has to be refrained from, but ideally, one needs to develop one's ethics as far as possible. In addition to this, that would be the first point, is the accumulation of merit. For example, going for refuge, offering mandalas, and so forth. So that's the second key point. And then one needs repeated training, such as in 4 sessions a day. One needs to repeatedly train the mind in single points of concentration. So these are indispensable if one is going to attain calm abiding. That's all.
Terda, yang gyugin yashu chik di temba teres. Temba teres. The temba dia, ani zu pigige, tanjishiva naje, ani kyawi kunjosum temba. Ani demba ni temba, demba shi temba tembu chik yobana. The telamigwi, shinin druya di lela uchagores. The dinti temba tembu yongyalaya karchi kugari seti. Tinganzuta, ani tiwarewa anzo temba tembu yongya, mimambujiki, jedrugudunga, the temba tembu kyun degmud seti, yorwa.
Furthermore, mindfulness is essential. If your mindfulness is stable, calm abiding can easily be developed. Whatever the object that you are meditating on, whether Buddha image, the 2 truths, the 4 noble truths, if your mindfulness is stable, then calm abiding can easily be developed. So just now to say, as the translator as an aside, the word for mindfulness is the word for memory or recollection or remembering. So mindfulness and recalling, or mindfulness and memory, it's the same word. So bear that in mind now with the last bit from Geshe. So many people I say to me, I forget things easily. I forget things easily. I do not hold things in mind very well. So here we see that their mindfulness or their forgetfulness is very strong. Their mindfulness is very weak. Their forgetfulness is very strong. That's all.
Tilda temba se tanda koran ani temba di yulayan jibi tanda res. Yulaya yang dini yang sound tambayna. Kazuki sound tambayna, tuzuki semnalaya, ani 10 days yungros, semnal dedech. Ani gyurumbu sound madana, ani gyobu jedrech.
So again, with Always do bear mindfulness, memory, recollection, same word. If one recalls, so recalls the object or is mindful of the object repeatedly, one will remember it. But one needs to do so repeatedly, and it needs to be done over a sustained period. If one does not recall or be mindful of an object often, it will be forgotten. However, on the other hand, if you repeatedly recall, hold in mind, keep in mind the object that you are meditating on, it will be so much easier to remember, to be mindful of. That's all. Nakdong?
Ngaktok sagre ta ngaktok sana di lol samya di
Namtok
mare ngak sana hago gra
ngak di Geshe
ke ngak di pena di ro di pi shogla madani lab tu yabana ngaktok la simbares din dembala inji shogla tago yana ngaktok nebares lagora
okay. Okay. Touché. Because the Pelchigonial me.
And so Tinza and sick di pena nanzu kunjosum sanjichu gendu sejora. Did sick di any sanjichu gendu mambu love devana. Azujala changora. And it's sick that the same like a kodewchaya.
Gosong. Where we can see this is, for example, the refuge prayer that we recite at the beginning of the teaching. This is something that you've all recited many times. And I imagine you can all recite it from memory. Why? Because you've recited it many times. You've been to many teachings, you recite it 3 times at every class. So this shows how through keeping something in mind through repetition, you become familiar with it, become mindful of it. You can easily recall it. That's all.
Tanga Geshe was Geshe toge ani nyanda shurayo chunjung kadula chunjung kadula geging zan geging gita chik sama nga ani ngatol simchugro ani tezgo da geging zan dro ani tevdi kajab anda sik kyor shosigro da kyor gora da mixam kyor gora da sik tipina sik kaju simen di kyor da di la matuana ani geging chegro ni 아직 유보 식으로
진압 난기열에
진압 난거라 현아베여라 너네 빼시나요라 나 시나게 돈을 드느라 아니 슈지 아니 겨바이나 디 겨름부 슈 되기도 셈라 시나게 돈을 셈라나 챵바디 빼 겨름부 되고레스 나 기부진 시드스나 아니 저거 제드에 디 용고레스
So I'm a Geshe, of course, educated in the Tibetan tradition. So I ordained young, and like other young monks, we have to memorize extensively. And when we are young, we each day need to go before our teacher, give him the book that we have memorized. He will close it, and then we need to recite to him what we've memorized. So he himself has long since memorized that, so he will know perfectly if our memorization has been correct or not. And if we make a mistake, he will take his mala, maybe even his hand, and he will express encouragement that we make a lot more effort. And from this, we have quite some fear going up to our teacher that I better get it right. And if one gets it wrong, that fear is reinforced. But actually, from this fear, when something untoward, unwanted like this happens to oneself, one remembers, one does not forget. So here, the way that we keep things in mind is through this process of repetition or accumulation, verbal accumulation. And this then is how we develop mindfulness on a topic. That's all.
아니 담아오시니까 신이 좀았어. 저번에는 안서사는 상상라서.
네. Den konstruerar dan tang no tricky look. If you have some questions, then now it's a good time. So please do ask.
Yeah, yes.
Geshe, can you elaborate a little on the difference between mindfulness and introspection?
Dene gena Geshe dan drempa de kepa kena tis mangwa songroknan.
시신스러운데 그게 샘 단지 데리다 소수 제거에 딱다 지금 너무도 땅에 줘라. 소수 배는 가서다 아니 자와도 좀만 봐나. 조디 아니 소수 동보송에 들어왔어. 소수 동보송에 딱다 지금 땅에 샘 줘라. 될 시신스거래서.
Also, look at introspection. Often sometimes you'll find it translated as vigilance. So introspection is a mind that looks, that watches the mind, watches what's going on in one's mind or one's behavior even. So for example, as an ordained person, we have to protect our vows. The primary thing we need to take care of are our vows. So how do we know whether we are thinking, speaking, acting in accordance with the vows that we have accepted? This is through the consciousness of introspection, which is watching, looking at whether something is being done or not done. That's all.
제 쳔바디 베나다 소소 자와진 바나 나 자와인 삼비기 아니 자와인 삼비 임바디 자와인바디 쳔바디 가디나 고고레스 아니 지만가 아니 삼비 쳔바디 고고요레스 디 아니 샘디 여바이나 아니 비기 dombi mintu chodang chewandige ani kabdulaya chengres ro ane jing samsung di yungros ro na tawa jing samsung di yobaina ani the pendo yungores.
Mindfulness is being mindful that, for example, in the context of ordained, in my case, I'm always need to be mindful that I'm a monk. I always need to recall that I'm a monk or remember that I'm a monk. So I'm using synonyms for mindfulness, recalling or remembering that I am a monk. And to the extent that I'm habituated to this way of thinking, when I'm in a situation that is not entirely that is not entirely suitable, immediately this will come to mind. Because I'm holding it in mind, I will be aware and not enter into errors, situations where I should not be.
di yobaina mejele keje shabaina ya sik mar mashoya namgyur tembaina namgyur dugja madya nga gendem bajire ngi mela namgyur dugja tena dig mare samsung roch ngi mela sik dugja la na dig mar nga gendem bajire samsung so ayungras
So for example, when with others, being mindful that I am ordained, this will impact my behavior. When I'm engaging when I'm speaking with others, I will be mindful that I'm an ordained person, and therefore this is speaking in a certain way is appropriate, and perhaps an aggressive way is inappropriate. Similarly, I'll be being mindful that I'm an ordained person. I'll be mindful that my facial expression is also in harmony with what an ordained person should show. I shouldn't walk around with an angry face or a snarl, but should make sure that I have an appropriate facial expression for someone who is ordained when engaging with others.
Putula chamjon chegorada amajiro amajiki lengen zo di susu putula chamjon chederwa zasan jimbayna susu zasan la ya ani karsota ani robachiya nyamdu droya di zasan jigi ta lengen ro pena kyoga jimbayna ngam morangi kyoga insambi ani temba diyo bayna kyoga digi chamjon chedi 소수 자다 들어와다. 내가 뭐 교가 인삼비기 템버디었나? 아니 로바들이야 장부인 거래. 장부 제고 그래서 들어와. 아니 김이지면은 나 교가 되기 김이 인삼선잖아. 콜이야 장부치야. 간지 통부치야디. 아니 소소소 민리어라. 디 템버디어 봐나. 디 템버디어 봐나. 아니 시즌들이 그래서 당이 콜 야고 맞는 디만가 그 사다리에 삼삼러지 이 콜 야고 맞는 디만가 그 파워에 삼삼러 시즌의 템버니디 가도 있는 냠도 두고 와서레스
To take other illustrations, a mother will be mindful that she is a mother, and being mindful that she is a mother, she will care for her children. Similarly, when she's with her partner, let's say her husband, she'll be aware, I am his wife, and hopefully he will be mindful too, I am her husband. And being aware of their own role in this relationship, this will serve to encourage that their behavior is concordant with their role. So each of them recognizing, I am the spouse who has made a commitment to my partner next to me. Therefore, the way I should interact with them should be in accordance with that. And this mindfulness of their role, whether of parent or partner, this will be mindful of that, will have an impact on how they interact with each other. And similarly too, mindfulness and introspection, these two need to be utilized together. They are companion minds, and we need to make use of them both together. Plaso.
창도나 템버냠도 그래서 녀그도 사말레인 그래서 시즌의 템버냠도 그래 시즌의 템버냠노 아니 딱깔하고 착살왔어.
On the other hand, if one has a nice cool beer, then as the mind weakens, slacks, essential companions such as introspection and mindfulness, these are lost.
Thank you, Geshe. You mentioned about the role of ethical restraint in assisting our concentration and counteracting distraction and mental laxity. Is it only with respect to assisting our cultivation of virtue, or what other ways does ethical restraint assist in counteracting distraction and laxity?
Okay. Would you mind just repeating that?
So Geshe mentioned the role of ethical restraint in counteracting distraction and laxity. And he mentioned it with respect to assisting in our cultivation of virtue. but I was wondering if he could explain which other ways ethical restraint assists in counteracting distraction and laxity.
Okay, thank you. Then again, I can ngoma Tsultrim ki kola sungsong. Then
La.
ngato can ngola Tsultrim ki kola sungsong. Then Tsultrim ki peyun dam namdu chik de kenteni ngato gopa dang chingwa nurgire bangire di dan trouble de maze gewa sage. Then gewa sage yore. Then matok Tsultrim dang den samna samten drupia shine drupia de kandus ropa chekere be
다들 로봇 쇼치그레스. 샘 착당기 온도 마소나 샘 착당기 마소나 샘 차냐부 되기라스. 샘 템부 되기라스. 샘 템부 돼야디 신니 드비야기 쌈된 드비야기 차냐 안 당보드레스. 안게 당보티 약슈드레스. 디 안 수정 것도 비용고도 하스라.
nee peltje sepel komasong kan het zong je ding is peltje sepel komasong a doch bekessen wanneer kan yankja song
술침 것도기 착당 착바다 당원 고그레스.
de
샘 착바다 당원 고온디 착당 메나 샘 차냐부지 되기레스. 라 샘 차냐부디 신니 드비야기 차게 약슈드레스. 안 당보드레스.
The ethical restraint, its importance cannot be overemphasized. Through the power of a mind that is ethically restrained, that we will counteract attachment and anger. And calm abiding cannot be achieved if the mind keeps being drawn through attachment and anger. But ethical restraint, through the power of ethical restraint, attachment and anger is kept at bay, thereby aiding the cultivation of calm abiding. That's all.
That's all. Thank you.
A couple of questions online. Geshe.
Oh. Online. Okay.
There's a question here. When is the best time to meditate if you're not a morning person, i.e. if you're lacking a clear mind? Yes, from Jen online. Venerable daughter is gone. Venerable daughter is gone. Thank you. Maybe we'll do dedication.
Jen 기결치는 Doji Dosana. Jen here. Different.
Aha.
Yeah.
Jen, are you okay to translate?
Yeah. Jen did that.
Hello.
Do you see me?
Unmute. Yeah, we can hear you, Jen.
All right. I'm having lunch. Sorry. Is Doji there?
Not here. Mundu show mundu.
Ale. Tanda ani ke sabuto ani sabuto jogi bare. Ya ye mic yabu jogi bito. Gonda ashuye.
Kim.
Jala ani yura dire. Oh, that's it.
Can you do that? Code.
You tipsa bare goda shubiyes.
Okay.
Ninko kala sagia.
Yes.
Any tada pukutetsu eri ke
Yeah.
do.
Okay. Yeah.
Goda.
Kemundo, yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. Lamrim malam.
Thank you. Final Lamrim dedication. From my two types of merits, vaster space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. If I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the completed greatest paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means, drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I discern them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a long time, with my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined. May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this greater path to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons, may all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent path never be parted in all our lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practice, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. This one? The swift one?
Yes.
Okay, in this page 5 in this booklet, prayer for the swift return for Lama Zopa Rinpoche by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Peerless teacher and assembly of children of victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with their lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.